All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krueg Show with a little 49er video. How are the Niners going to solve their problems at offensive tackle? We're going to discuss it in the draft ahead and how I think they ought to play their hand of cards at offensive line and specifically at offensive tackle. It's all straight ahead. First, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. And this show is sponsored by our good friends at LearnKey, LearnKey's Upskill Academy. And there we go. Look at that. Just like that, they're on the screen. LearnKey's Upskill Academy. They're an online learning platform designed to get you job ready in 6 months or less. Whether you're interested in IT, cybersecurity, marketing, or another high demand field, they offer over 30 different certification programs to help you take the next step in your professional career. So, great company. They've been in business for over 37 years. They have over 200,000 students that they've worked with, and they place over 100 students every month in well-paying jobs. So if you're between jobs, if you don't like your job, if you somehow feel like you're underskilled and want to get more skills so that you can get more money, check them out. The link is in the description below. LearnKey Upskill Academy. Hopefully they can help you out. And thanks to them for being a proud sponsor of the Krueg Show. All right, let's talk a little bit about the upcoming NFL draft. Every year, Bob McGinn does an annual series where he asks NFL scouts around the league for their take about prospects in the upcoming draft. And, it's funny because it used to be the scouts were put their name to it. In 2015, the series became anonymous. And, because the series is anonymous and the scout's identity is protected, the quotes, have come across as being a little bit stronger and sometimes more critical because you don't have the accountability of having to stick your name to it. So anyway, the Niners are definitely projected to draft an offensive tackle. Trent Williams is at the end of his career. Colton McKivitz is a replacement level tackle, even though the Niners think he's better than that. I think he's probably best on a championship team as the sixth offensive lineman who can play in all spots, or I think he probably could be better in the interior than at right tackle. I do think the criticism of Colton McKivitz has gotten a little overboard. I think he's a tough guy. I think he's assignment sound. Is he overwhelming? No. Is he dominant? No. But I think he's suitable. I think he's a good enough player. I think you can win with him. I really do. But he's not a powerhouse of a guy. He's much more of a technician at this point. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes, but he's not going to blow anybody away. So, it is really interesting so basically the scouts, the anonymous scouts in this piece by Bob McGinn did breakdowns on the top offensive tackles: Will Campbell, Arman Membu, Kelvin Banks, and Josh Conerly. We're going to read you some of those scouting evaluations, and it's pretty clear that the scouts, the scouts that they've talked to, they don't love these guys. These are not perfect prospects. And, there are an awful lot of Niner fans who have, told me in the chat many times on live streams or in comments on Twitter or YouTube, wherever, the Niners need to go offensive line. And I would agree with that. But then there's the people that go, the Niners need to go offensive line in the first round. Why? Dom Pooney wasn't an offensive lineman taken in the first round. I know the feeling is that the best linemen are in the first round, but the 49ers kind of prefer a faster, more athletic lineman who can get out in space and block in their outside zone scheme. And the traits that they're looking for oftentimes are traits that other teams are not looking for. Other teams are looking for mass. The 49ers are looking for movement ability. The 49ers clearly value the 20-yard shuttle, which shows change of direction and agility. And the four linemen that they added last year, Nugent and Mays as undrafted players, Pooney and Kingston as drafted prospects, they all did well in that 20-yard shuttle. So definitely it's worth cross-comparing who did well in that 20-yard shuttle. to give you an idea of who the most athletic tackles are and maybe give you an idea of who the 49ers like. But let's first go into the four premier offensive tackle prospects: Will Campbell, Arman Membu, Kelvin Banks, Josh Conerly. We'll talk about why these guys are not the guy. And then we will tell you who we think are much better later in the draft options. It's rare that your cheaper options are better options, but I think this year, that's the deal. That's the deal. I think the guys that are further down the board are going to be better options. I think the Niners ought to go defense in the first round or offensive skill position and go with the offensive line a little bit later on. But let's get into it. Will Campbell. We'll start with Will Campbell. A lot of people thought he was going to be a top 5 lock, and then they found out that his arms were only 33 inches, and that's a concern. Now, why is that a concern? Okay, under 9% of starting NFL tackles who played at least 500 snaps in 2024 had arm length under 33 inches. That's 6 out of 67 in the sample size. So the fact that they first at the All-Star game, they measured Campbell's arms at 32 and 5/8 inches. That makes him not just an outlier, but kind of an extreme outlier, right? Only 6 out of 67 NFL tackles have sub 33-inch arm length, and he's one of them. And now they measured him again in Baton Rouge at the LSU Pro Day, and he picked up a little bit of arm length somehow from 32 and 5/8 to 33 inches. So he's right there on the cusp, on the break point. And so that's a concern for a lot of scouts. Now, here's what one anonymous scout said about Will Campbell. He's super talented, can do it all. He's quick, has feet, he's athletic, his technique's really good. In the run game, he can position or jolt people. In pass protection, he can mirror. He'll give up some pressures every so often on an inside move mostly. He's got Pro Bowl talent. His arms are a little short. That would be the only concern. The arm length of 32 and 5/8 inches and the hand of 9.5 inches, measurements at the combine. Those are standard by most teams. But though that 32 and 5/8 arm length and those 9.5-inch hands were the shortest arms and the smallest hands among the top tackles. The scout said there's always exceptions. There's always outliers. All right. So, when I watch the film of Campbell, I don't see the arm length being an issue. I really don't. Now, I haven't studied him in the end zone copy tight where you can really see the arm length against the edge rushers. And arm length is vitally important. A 35-inch arm is a much better arm length than a 31-inch arm. But in between, everything in between is just that. And I don't think, that his wingspan should be a real concern. I really don't. The guy played in the SEC. The guy played in the best conference in America. He played against the best competition in America, and he's dominated since he was a freshman. So, get lost with your arm length argument on Will Campbell. I'm not buying that. One scout though did say this, and this is kind of an eye opener. He said he's less than a Jonah Williams as a left tackle. Jonah Williams is not a great left tackle, but as a right tackle, he would be a good player. That's interesting. He was a 5-star recruit out of high school. One scout said you can find plenty of negative reps on this kid. If you want to knock holes in him and not take him, you can find whiffs and misses and getting pushed back. If you take him as a left tackle, you're going to be disappointed. You've got to have an alternative plan. If you take him as a right tackle or as a guard, then he'll prove to be a good pick. How about that? So that's a pretty strong statement. If you take Will Campbell as a left tackle, you're going to be disappointed. That's interesting. So, okay. That makes me pause, right? I do agree that I like this player. I liked him in college. I like him now. I'm not concerned about the short arms as like, oh my God, he can't play. No, he can play, but he might be more of a guard or a right tackle than a left tackle. And to have this one scout say, hey, if you take him as a left tackle, you're going to be disappointed. Do we want another Mike McGlinchey situation where you take a tackle in the, top half of the first round and you find out he's a guard well, he's not really a guard, but he's a right tackle only? I mean, that's what McGlinchey was. He couldn't play left tackle. It's like the top half of the first round should be reserved for guys who can play that left tackle spot. And if this guy's more of a right tackle or a guard, as this scout says, hey, if you take him at right tackle, if you take him at guard, he'd be a good pick. If you take him as a left tackle, you're going to be disappointed. Does make you pause. Makes you think. And it might be enough to just make me go, you know what? Let me look around. All right, let's move on to Arman Membu, because I really love Arman Membu. This is the Missouri offensive tackle. He's a little shorter at 6'4", 330. He's ranked as the third tackle, despite going in the top 10 and being the first offensive tackle on the consensus board. But the quotes from the scouts were really interesting on Membu. One guy says he's strong, not overpowering, and not real mean. I don't like the sound of that. That makes him sound like he's a marshmallow. He's strong, not overpowering, and not real mean. Not real mean is not what I want to hear. Another scout said struggles when power rushers get to his chest. I think you see that, actually. When you watch the film, you can see that. The guy's got long arms, and he can pop and keep you at the end of that long arm. But if you get up on his chest, it seems like he loses all power. Another scout said, wish he had a little bit more pop on contact. That's, of course, a run game trait. Another scout said, I loved his traits, but I just didn't think he was quite ready. I can see that. There's a little bit of rawness there. Another scout said, Anchor's kind of average. The instincts are kind of average. I think it will take a little bit of time, so I don't know if he's a walk-in starter, a plug-and-play guy. That's interesting. Most of the scouts said Membu was a good player and had the requisite athleticism. There was a quote that stood out that said, if you are set everywhere across your offensive line, Membu could be the best one to draft. He's a hell of a right tackle. So I don't know. I mean, the Niners are definitely not set on the offensive line, right? I mean, I don't know why that should matter. I think Membu would be a fantastic player for the 49ers, but then once again, is he a right tackle? And if he's a right tackle, do you once again, you drafted McGlinchey only to decide you didn't want to pay him? Are you going to draft a right tackle in the top 12 picks and then realize the guy can't play left tackle and then decide when he becomes a free agent that he's not worth paying? So, I mean, that's a concern. How do the Niners feel about right tackle? I know that they like Colton McKivitz. Heck, Matt Barrows said the other day that the Niners think that Colton McKivitz is the bee's knees, which I haven't heard in a while. That's a great expression, which means they like him. For some of you younger people going, what the hell does that mean? It means they like him. So I might consider taking a dominant right tackle like Membu at 11 and moving Colton McKivitz to left guard. Let him replace Banks. Let him and Barch battle it out. The loser can be the center and move Brendel out of there. But that's interesting. So one of the quotes says he's a hell of a right tackle. Another guy said he didn't think he was ready. He needs more time. He needs development. Another guy said he loses power when you get inside on him. Struggles with power rushers and bull rushers. Another guy said he's not overpowering and not real mean. I don't like the sound of that. That would make me once again want to pass. I only want to take an offensive lineman in the first half of the first round if I'm absolutely loving the player. He's mean as hell. He's a fantastic left tackle. This guy's going to be, with all the measurables and all the bells and whistles that you're looking for in a top tier player. I don't know if Membu is it. And I'm not even 100% sure Membu's even going to be there. I think there's a very good chance Membu's off the board by the time the Niners pick. But that would make the fact that you got his anchor's average, his instincts are average, doesn't have enough pop in the contact, didn't think he was quite ready, struggles with power, not real mean. Does he sound like the kind of traits you want to have for your first round offensive lineman? People are like, draft Membu, he's a destroyer. There's some good highlights for sure. But those quotes from the scouts, were pretty consistent there. So that's interesting. May want to pass on Membu. I still like him the most of these offensive linemen, these top offensive linemen, but I might want to pass on him based on these quotes. All right, let's move on to Kelvin Banks. This is another one. This is a guy that has been touted as just premier for so long. And I've watched a lot of them, and I just don't see what everybody else sees. I don't see a great player here. I really don't. I see a big-bodied guy who looks kind of just like a slug. I don't see a great offensive tackle in Kelvin Banks. I see a great offensive system. I see a great players all around him. Texas was good. I just didn't see a destroyer. So he was a player. He a lot of people thought he was going to be a top 10 pick for sure. He was a 3-year starter. He does everything decently well. His measurables are not a concern. He does fall off blocks, and you see it. Now, one scout says, this is what he said about Kelvin Banks. I don't see it in this guy at all. Big dude, average athlete, gets beat a lot, falls off blocks, not very strong, not very athletic, has issues in space. He'd have to be a guard at the NFL level. This is Kelvin Banks. A lot of people think he's a blue chipper. Maybe the Niners could draft him and play him at left guard, but you're going to draft a left guard who's not very athletic? I mean, really? Really? You're a team that likes to move your linemen, and you're going to take a relatively unathletic guard at the 11th pick overall in the draft? I don't think so. Now, most of the scouts like Banks. They like his size, his power, and his feet, calling him a really well-rounded offensive lineman. But I watched the Georgia-Texas game. I saw Jalen Walker beat him pretty consistently. 3 sacks in one game, all on Jalen Walker against Kelvin Banks. So, big. I mean, there's no question he's big. He's experienced. If you're looking for a big guy, experience, comes from a big, physical offensive line, great program, this and that, that's this guy. But I don't get it. I agree with the scout. I don't see it. He is big, but he's average. And he does get beat, and he does fall off blocks, and he doesn't look very strong, and he doesn't look very athletic, and he doesn't look super athletic in space. And I think he's a guard. I think he's a guard. I don't think he's an offensive tackle. I think he's going to get abused by speed rushers. So not a Kelvin Banks guy. Another guy that they broke down here was Josh Conerly, who went to Rainier Beach High School and up in the Pacific Northwest. He was a 5-star recruit. He was a high school running back, for crying out loud. And he went to Oregon. And, it's funny. He started the past 2 seasons for Oregon. But here's the quote from one scout on Josh Conerly. If you need a left tackle, he would be it. He has the agility and athletic ability to protect the blind side. He's only going to get better. Great kid, very young. I had a clear vision for him, especially if I needed a left tackle. He goes on to say athleticism shouldn't be an issue for Conerly because he was a running back in high school. and they're talking about, he's started, let's see, um, one scout liked how he fared against Abdul Carter. Here's the quote from the scout. Big thing was he played well against Penn State's Abdul Carter. That really jumped out. Better pass protector than a run blocker, not super talented, not a gifted athlete. He's just getting by on guile and craftiness. He's going to start and be a good player. So, it's interesting. There was another scout who said, if you're asking a guy as a rookie to protect the blind side, he would be a really good option. So as he's talking about left tackle, one thing he'll have to get better at is strengthen the run game if he wants to become a longtime Pro Bowl player. He doesn't have inline strength and power to displace vertically. He doesn't have it. And you hope, because he's such a young guy, that he can develop that. One scout said of Conerly that he's on my all overrated list. He has some athleticism, but didn't play smart, didn't play with very good technique. I didn't feel this guy. I'm with these scouts on the skepticism. Now, Conerly, I like a little bit. He does flash big time athleticism. He really does. I saw the Penn State game. He looked good against Abdul Carter, but I don't think this guy is much as a run blocker. He's more of a finesse guy. I don't see any pop in the run game. I don't see that anger in the run game. I don't see him really moving people in the run game. And I agree. He's big and he is athletic, but I think he's overrated. I really do. It's funny too, because I'm going to get into some of the offensive tackles that I like better than these guys. And one scout likes one of the guys I like, Arianti Ursey of Minnesota, saying that Ursey was head and shoulders better than Kelvin Banks and Josh Conerly. And I agree. So let's get to, I'm, basically, if you're listening to this video, you're like, so these curmudgeon scouts don't like any of the top guys. And it's easy to just be like, they're old and what do they know? No. We're not doing that. The scouts' job is to collect information. They are literally sleuths. They're private investigators looking for background information that they can find that they can find on a player that doesn't show up on the film. Why? Okay, why? What they're searching for in all of this minutia of arm length, hand length, this, that, you name it, every possible variable. What they're looking for is the essence of a player. That's what you're looking for. That's why highlight reels suck, because a highlight reel doesn't give you the essence of a player. It gives you the highlights of a player. The essence of a player is, what is he ultimately? Okay, there's all these good traits. Okay, there's all these bad traits. What's the essence of the player? And sometimes the essence of a player is a defining characteristic, or it's a defining stat, or it's a defining something that tells you about that player. And so that's what the scouts are looking for. And they're looking for things that tell them what kind of people these guys are, because that matters too. That matters a lot. I'll take a 7 talent with a 10 work ethic over a 10 talent with a 7 work ethic. You gotta keep working. You have to have that ethic about you as a football player. It's just part of the job. You got what I always call it. You got to love the process of pro football. Pro football gets played on Sunday, but the process of pro football is Monday through Saturday. Do you love the process? Do you embrace the process? Or do you just love playing on game day? Because everybody loves playing on game day. But that's really it. They're searching for the essence of a player. So if we go and review this, they like Will Campbell, right? Super talented, quick feet, but the arm length is a concern. And they think he's more of a right tackle than a left tackle. I still like Will Campbell, but the shorter arms and the fact that, some scouts feel that if you try him at left tackle, you're not going to have what you want, makes me not want to take him 11th overall. But I still like Will Campbell. Okay, so that's the first guy. The second guy, I really love the Membu tape, but a lot of the personality traits here, and once again, is he an overpowering right tackle who's got to play right tackle or right guard or left guard? The left tackle, is he a future left tackle? I don't know if I want to draft a tackle up front here and invest the 11th pick overall if he's not my future starter at left tackle, because Trent Williams is maybe 1 year away from the end. Banks never saw the greatness of Banks, and it sounds like the scouts don't either. Conerly, you can see the incredible athleticism, but the consistency's not there. So I don't see any consistency, and I don't see any real pop or power in the run game. He definitely circled the wagons for Abdul Carter. He played well, and this guy's a good pass protector. I think if I have to go with a blindside pass protector, that I'd probably go with Conerly of these top guys. Okay, but when you see these quotes, it makes me want to pass on these guys. Probably go on the defensive side of the ball and take a look at who else is in the draft. And that gets me to why we're doing this video, because there's about 9 or 10 offensive linemen that are not going in the first round that I think fit the 49ers a whole lot better. Okay. And I think the value for the 49ers in the draft is going to be getting offensive linemen, but I would rather get a couple of these guys late than go with the guys early and pass on the defensive players early. Give me Kenneth Grant. Give me Walter Nolan. Give me, Jalen Walker. Give me some special defensive players, even a corner, a Jedi Barron, a Johnson from Michigan. Give me an elite defensive player. I think I can do this offensive line thing later in the draft. Let's talk about the guys that I do like on the offensive line, because I don't love those guys. I love Campbell and Membu a little bit as prospects, but not enough to pick them 11. And I like Conerly a little bit upside-wise, but no way am I picking him at 11. So, and I'm not saying I would pick these guys at 11 either, but these are guys that you can get later in the draft. All right, let's go through it. Number 1 on my list, I'm a huge fan of Carson Vincent from Alabama A&M. 6'7", 314 pounds, 34.5-inch arms, 10.25-inch hands. He's a prospect who hails from Morrisville, North Carolina. He's got a great 40 time, 5.12. They weren't sure how he'd run the 40. He ran it great. This guy can really move, and you can see it on film. At 6'7", 314, this guy can move. 78th percentile among all offensive tackles in the 40. He had a 1.8 10-yard split. He's an experienced player. Niners like experience. This guy played 48 games in college, all of them at left tackle. First team all-conference this last year. He's a developmental pass protector. That's what he is. He needs work on his technique. There's no question about that. But he's got unbelievable length. He's got great feet. He's got a really quick slide. He's got quick feet. He's a good pass protector. Definitely needs to get stronger. Struggled a little bit against the Auburn Tigers. But this guy is good. 61 knockdown blocks as a senior. He allowed just 1 sack in the games that he went up against the SEC competition. He's an ex-hoops player, so he's got that level of athleticism and footwork. The level of competition at Alabama A&M is a concern. I'm not going to say it isn't. But this guy's durable. This guy's a durable player who did nothing but play. He fits an outside zone scheme, which is what the Niners run, because he's got great mobility. He's got 84-inch wingspan. That's 99th percentile. So this was the first HBCU player to be invited to the Senior Bowl. Alabama A&M's offense led the SWAC in total yards. They led the SWAC in passing offense. This guy's a competitor, and he will finish blocks, and you can get him probably in round 5, maybe round 4, round 5, round 6, in that range. Carson Vincent, Alabama A&M. Love him. This is an offensive tackle prospect that makes sense. And I've watched some of his film. This guy wants to destroy people. He wants to bury you into the earth. Carson Vincent, 6'7", Alabama A&M, 6'7", 315 pounds. Love him. Day 3, offensive tackle. All right, let's go into my second guy. And this guy I've been a fan of for years. I used to do the Stanford pregame show, and they had Chris Hinton's son. Stanford gets a lot of sons of pros. Why? Because pro football players know that making it to the pros is a crapshoot, and that really you got to get an education. So a lot of these guys, Emmitt Smith sent his kid to Stanford. Chris Hinton sent his kid to Stanford. There's a lot of Ed McCaffrey sent his kid to Stanford. I mean, there's a lot of guys, even guys that didn't play at Stanford. They're like, hey, man, my kid's going to Stanford. My kid's going to use his high school athleticism, and he's going to get a degree from Stanford. So that's, Chris Hinton was a 7-time Pro Bowl offensive lineman. That's his daddy. And Miles grew up in Johns Creek, Georgia. He was a 5-star high school recruit. He decided to go to Stanford. He's 6'7", 323 pounds with 34 and an 1/8 inch arms, very long arms, 10 and a 1/4 inch hands, huge hands. This guy comes from an incredible genes. His mom played hoops at Northwestern. His dad was a 7-time Pro Bowler along the offensive line in the NFL. And Miles Hinton is just a crazy athlete. 4.96, 20-yard shuttle. In 2021, he made 9 starts at right tackle at Stanford. 2022, he made 7 starts at right tackle, also at Stanford. He transferred to Michigan in 2023. He made 5 starts, 4 at right tackle, 1 at left tackle. And then in 2024, he was honorable mention all conference. He made 10 starts at left tackle. So this guy's got height. He's got length. He's got pedigree. He can move. This guy can really move. I think this is a steal of a player. I mean, this is a guy that I really believe the 49ers are going to draft or sign after the draft if he doesn't get drafted. Miles Hinton. If you watch him, I mean, 6'7", 325, perfect build for the NFL offensive tackle spot. And he can move, he can pull, he's got athletic feet. He's an agile mover. He really is. As I said, 5-star guy. Now he needs some experience. He needs some tutelage. He needs Chris Forster to coach him up. He's not ready-made. But you know what? He's, for a guy who, has this kind of size and played at big-time programs, I don't think there's just endless development needed. I think this is going to be a steal. I think Miles Hinton from Michigan, the former Stanford offensive lineman, is going to be a day 3 steal. I think in a lot of ways, Miles Hinton could be exactly what the Niners are looking for. Why? Because the Niners' stated goal is that they want to swing tackle. And Hinton can play the left side or the right side. He could be that swing tackle. A lot of people feel like his technique is actually pretty good, and that he's pretty refined. So I'm really interested to see what Miles Hinton looks like as a pro. Loved him at Stanford, but he was still kind of figuring it out. Then he went to Michigan. They won the national championship. I'm sure he learned quite a bit. He kind of followed the same path as Drake Nugent. I asked Drake Nugent about Hinton. He's like, yeah, man, oh my God, he's a total monster, total beast, total talent. I'd like to see those guys on the same line next year, Miles Hinton and Drake Nugent. So I'm a big fan of Miles Hinton, and I think you can get him late in day 2, or day 3, I should say, late on day 3. All right, let's go with some of the other offensive linemen that I like, because there's a handful of guys that I really do like that I think are great tackles, fantastic for the Niners, better than the 4 guys that the scouts kind of ripped up. I already mentioned him, but Arianti Ursey from Minnesota, 3-year starter at left tackle for the Golden Gophers. He's a Kansas City, Missouri kid. He was the Big Ten Offensive Lineman of the Year this year. Huge, but very quick. 6'6", 340, 33 and an eighth inch arm, 9.5-inch hands. He had a 175 10-yard split. He had 25 reps on the bench. This guy, I think, is the perfect 49er offensive lineman. If they're going to go offensive line early, this is the guy they ought to go with, Arianti Ursey. Why? Well, not only is he 6'6", 340 and very, very quick, but he's a 3-year starter at left tackle in a Minnesota offense where they play the outside zone. That's what the Niners offense is, the outside zone. This guy's quickness, they said that he was going to run a 1.52 10-yard split, which would have been faster than Brock Purdy. And I'm like, there's no way. If this guy's faster at 6'6", 340 than Brock Purdy in 10 yards, then he's going to go first overall. And the scouts were like, no way he's running the 1.52 10-yard split. And he didn't. He ran a 1.75 10-yard split. That's still cooking at 6'6", 340. And for a guy who played left tackle in the Big Ten and was accomplished, 3-year starter, outside zone, in an outside zone scheme, Arianti Ursey in round 2, I think is probably a better pick than going offensive lineman in round 1 with any of the guys. So I think Ursey is their guy. I mean, that's the guy that fits them the best, I think. All right, let's talk about some of these other guys, though, because there's a few more on this list that I really love. If you're going to day 3 and you're looking for a developmental offensive tackle, Caleb Etienne from BYU is a great option. 6'7", 330, 86-inch wingspan. The guy he played right tackle, he played left tackle, he played right guard. This year, he played left tackle. He was first team all Big 10. So, I mean, all Big 12, I should say. This guy, Caleb Etienne, is a great story. He ran a sub 5.0 40, 4.96 at 6'7", 330. That shows unbelievable athleticism. Now, this guy's story is interesting. He started off at Butler Community College. That's right. He was a JUCO guy. And then went to Oak State and then went to BYU and played a little right tackle, played a little right guard. And then he looked raw, like, oh my God, no way this guy's going to play right tackle. And he just kept getting better and better and better and better. And this year he was their starting left tackle and he was first team all conference. Caleb Etienne. That is going to be another guy, day 3, that could be a major steal as an offensive tackle on day 3. All right, one of my favorite guys that I've been mocking to the Niners for weeks now is Anthony Belton from NC State. Probably going to go in the 3rd round. He's a Tallahassee, Florida kid, 11 starts at left tackle this year. He's powerful. He's got long arms. A lot of people think he's a future right tackle, but he does have elite feet. What I love about Belton, though, is he is a finisher. This guy wants to absolutely kill you. He's 6'6", 336, 33 and 7/8 inch arms, 10 and a quarter inch hands. He had a 1.82 10-yard split, which is still a good time. And he, at 340 pounds, is absolutely a finisher. NC State, underrated program. Belton, I love Belton. I think you could start him at right tackle. What I would do if I drafted him is start him at right tackle and move McKivitz to left guard. He is a house. This guy, but he's got great feet. Powerful, long arms, elite feet. And this guy wants to destroy. Love Anthony Belton. I have no problem if the Niners said, you know what, we're going defensive line in the 1st round. And then in round 2, they went Arianti Ursey, and in round 3, they went Anthony Belton. I mean, Ursey and Belton, I think, are great, great prospects. All right, let's get down to a couple of my favorite guys. Emory Jones. If I was drafting for the 49ers, this is the tackle that I would draft. This guy's 6'5", 312 pounds. He's from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So he's stayed at home his whole life. He was an all-SEC player as a freshman at right tackle. 3-year starter at right tackle. Started every game since he was a freshman. Every game. He's got the hoops background. He's got ridiculously long arms, 34 and a quarter inch arms, elite length, 10 and 3/4 inch hands, almost 11-inch hands. Huge, huge guy. He's going to struggle a little bit against speed rushes early on as a tackle. I think you could play him at left guard right away. And eventually, I think this guy could be your starting right tackle. I think there's potential if he can improve his footwork to be a left tackle. There's definitely a frame to put on weight. He's 6'5", 312, but he looks willowy. I mean, he looks like a basketball player. He was a basketball player. And so I think there's 20 pounds of muscle easily that can be put onto this kid's frame. This kid's got the best frame, the longest arms, played, game after game after game, blocked the best players in the best conference in America. Everybody's talking about Will Campbell. I'm not even 100% convinced that Will Campbell is the best tackle on his own team. I kind of like this kid more. Emory Jones at right tackle for LSU is an absolute destroyer. Love him. Look great in the Senior Bowl and the one-on-ones. Football's important to him. He's just a big kid. I mean, he needs maturation. He needs coaching. He needs Chris Forster. But Emory Jones is going to be a Pro Bowl offensive tackle. I love Emory Jones. That would be the guy that I would take. And I would probably take him either late in round 2 or pray that he was there in round 3. I love Emory Jones. Absolutely love him. All right. Last 3 guys on the list. And these are guys with traits that I think fit the Niners. Logan Brown from Kansas, who was Dom Pooney's teammate at Kansas. This guy got kicked off the team at one point or another, and I think that needs to be investigated. But 6'6", 311 pounds, 33 and 7/8-inch arms, 175 in the 10-yard split, 10-inch hands. He's from Grand Rapids, Michigan. He was a 5-star high school recruit. His short shuttle time is awesome, 4.51. Good strength, 26 reps at 225. He had 11 starts at right tackle as a senior. He was only a 1-year starter, so that's a little bit of a concern. 5-star high school recruit, only a 1-year starter. But I really like this kid. I like his potential. I like the athleticism. I think he would fit the Niners scheme. And we're talking about a day 3 tackle. We're talking about a guy in the 5th round, 6th round. Logan Brown from Kansas. I love it. 6'6", 311 pounds. Good prospect. To me, a guy like Logan Brown on day 3 is way, way better than going for some of those blue chip guys in round 1. Another guy who has great physical traits, and he may be a guard, to be completely honest, is Caleb Rogers from Texas Tech. 6'4", 312 pounds, 32 and 3/8-inch arms, 9 3/4-inch hands. He had a 1.78 10-yard split. 5-year starter, Ironman, man. This guy played over 4,200 career snaps. Slot 600 pounds. He's a Texas kid from Mansfield, Texas. Probably more of a guard at the next level, but can play offensive tackle or offensive guard. He had a 4.49 20-yard shuttle. This guy can really move. Now, this is an interesting prospect, too, because what do you need from your young offensive linemen when you draft them on day 2 or day 3? You need them to be versatile because you only have so many backups, and this guy is versatile. He's played left guard. He's played right guard. He's played left tackle. He's played right tackle. 5-year starter. He's played 4,200 career snaps in college. Super athletic. Very versatile. Good workout numbers. Caleb Rogers. And if you watch this guy pulling, I saw a couple plays where this guy pulled from right guard to or from right tackle, I believe, around the left side and got out in front of a running back. This guy blocked for Taj Brooks, and Taj Brooks is a beast and had a great year. So Caleb Rogers, big fan of Caleb Rogers. Very athletic, very athletic. And the last guy on the list is also one of my favorites, and that's Esa Pole. Esa Pole played at Wazoo. 6'5", 320 pounds, 9 and 7/8-inch hands, 34.5-inch arms, long arms. This guy is an amazing story. He didn't play football. His mom didn't want him to get a concussion, so she didn't let him play football at all. And I'm not talking about he didn't play Pop Warner. He didn't play football. He didn't play high school football. How many guys are talented enough to make it to the NFL after not playing high school football? I mean, that's amazing. This guy's got long arms, almost 35-inch arms. He's a raw run blocker, but he didn't play football until he went to junior college. His brother played, and makes you wonder, how come mom let the brother play but didn't let Essa play? But Essa goes and plays at Chabot in 2021, goes the JUCO route. And the light came on, and the guy can really play. 21 career starts at left tackle. He's very fluid in pass protection. He's 6'5", 320, ridiculous long arms, and he's raw as a run blocker. He's raw as an offensive lineman. Heck, I mean, Chris Forster's going to have to really coach this kid because he didn't even play high school football. He didn't even play football until he went to the JUCO ranks in 2021. So he's only played football for a couple of years, which is bad and good. It's bad from the standpoint as he probably has all kinds of things he doesn't know. And then it's good from the standpoint his body hasn't been beaten up. So he's got a relatively fresh body. But Essa Pole, Wazoo, going to be a day 3 guy, maybe an undrafted guy. But these are the better offensive tackles. Do the Niners need an offensive tackle? Yes. Yes, they do. And to me, it should be either Essa Pole, Caleb Rogers, Logan Brown, Emory Jones, I said, is my favorite. Anthony Belton is another favorite. Caleb Etienne, Arianti Ursey, I think, is probably the best fit for the Niners offense. Miles Hinton, former Stanford player, might be the perfect day 3 swing tackle. And Carson Vincent, from the HBCU Alabama A&M program. I love him. I absolutely love him. This guy just wants to kill people, and he's got 84-inch wingspan, and I think it's going to take a year, but these guys are developmental players, right? They're not day 1 guys. Of the list of players that we just went through, really, Ursey and Belton and Emory Jones are going on day 2. The rest of these guys are day 3 guys. So offensive linemen that the Niners, in my opinion, should pass on the offensive linemen in round 1 and put that off either to round 2, Emory Jones, Anthony Belton, Arianti Ursey, round 3, or put it off to day 3 and get a couple of these developmental tackles. That is the better route to go than to try to invest and try to handpick which of the premier guys are really worth the 11th pick overall. Will Campbell, Arman Membu, Kelvin Banks, Conerly. Conerly's a decent pass protector, but not, you kind of wonder about Banks overall. Membu, I mean, these guys all have flaws, as you can see. And once again, you're searching for the essence of a football player. But I like Will Campbell. I like Membu. I can see some positive traits in Conerly. I don't like Banks. But you know what? I wouldn't go with any of them. I really wouldn't. They're better tackles down the board, and we just went through all of them. So hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krueg Show. Thanks to our friends at LearnKey. LearnKey is our sponsor of today's show, and the show is, or I should say the video is sponsored by LearnKey Upskill Academy. They're an online learning platform designed to get you job ready in 6 months or less, whether you're interested in IT, cybersecurity, marketing, or any other high-demand field. They offer over 30 certification programs to help you take that next step in your professional career. 37 years in business, 200,000 students that they've worked with, over 100 students placed in new jobs every month. Check them out. The link is in the description. I think you're going to like LearnKey Upskill Academy. And thanks to them for being a proud sponsor of the Krueg Show. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krueg Show on YouTube.